Hello, hello, and welcome back. I'm so glad you're here. This Mind, Body, Soul Mastery podcast is a place where we explore what it really means to live with intention, to lead from the heart, and walk through life with a deeper connection to mind, body, and soul. Whether I'm sitting down with a guest or just sharing what I'm learning in real time, my hope is that you'll hear something that invites you back to yourself. So take a deep breath and let's drop into today's conversation. I'm joined today with Joe Mugan. He joins me today to talk about his dark night of the soul moment where he found himself curled up in a ball on the floor of a spare bedroom, completely numb, disconnected from his body, from his purpose, from anything that resembled quote unquote him. He didn't even know what it was. He didn't even know what was wrong. He just knew he couldn't carry on like that. Have you ever felt like that, listeners? I know that I have. And reading Joe's application brought me back to tears because I felt that way. I've been there. But let me go back to Joe. From there on the floor, it was the beginning, not of a grand awakening, but of a slow, messy journey back to his truth, to who Joe is when it's all stripped back, the essence of him, the soul of him. Everything that's come since his healing, his path as a coach and shamanic healer, it all started there in that moment of complete disconnection. Joe, welcome to the show.
Hi, yeah, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And for those that listen, know we just dive right in to that authentic conversation. There's no surface level conversations here. We just go right in.
Yeah,
But
good.
take us back to that moment. Take us back to that
Yeah,
time, what you were feeling and what happened.
yeah. So when you were reading it, it's fascinating to hear someone else say it, and it's like the voice inside your head, and so it brings back all those memories and feelings.
Mm,
So it's really not that difficult to get back there in a good way, in a good
yeah.
way. So yeah, it's like a bit of context. It might so when it comes to like my memory of like past events. I've always been someone that says, like, quite honestly, that I don't always remember everything that happens, and things for me are kind of snapshotty
Hmm.
and picture frames and stuff. But that's sort of a shame in some senses because you don't remember everything, but in other senses, the things that really matter do stay. And so this was actually one of those moments that I can feel everything. I know the room. I could go back to that house because it's not the house that we live in now. It was a couple of houses ago, and I could find the spots, and I could sit exactly. You could take all the furniture out, and I'll know where to sit. Um, and it wasn't odd for me to get myself into that sort of place. It wasn't like it had happened before in the sense of sort of where you feel like you may have hit rock bottom.
Mm,
But what was different about this one is that it felt like the end of doing that. It felt like this was the
mm,
last time that I'd do that. So it kind of made me look back and go, perhaps every time I thought I hit rock bottom, I actually just sort of I was skimming the water, as it were, and I was down there, but I was just sort of a pebble going across the water. And then this time I sank, and this time
mm.
this time that was the end of it. That was the end of just bouncing off the top of this water until I broke down. So um, I don't remember much of what was happening sort of downstairs, as it were. So what it is, I took myself away. So it was it now 5 years ago, and COVID had happened. This wasn't COVID, like the beginning of COVID, so that had happened, and there'd been a lot of soul searching, a lot of working out what you need to do with your life and stuff. And we had my daughter, we had our first child, and so we had her in COVID, and there was tough things with that, but there was also wonderful things because we got to spend quality time together. And so it should have been fantastic. It should have been soul searching, time with the family, no real commitments for work, so responsibilities are low. I now know as a father of two, a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, that responsibilities, they weren't
Mm.
responsibilities, and a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old are way more responsibility than that. Um, but I just, like a slow boiling frog, I just found myself in a lot of boiling water, and it all got too much. And so I took myself upstairs, and I just huddled, and sort of rocked, huddled, rocked, broke down. My wife was with my daughter downstairs, and she just left me to it, because this was
Mm,
one of those moments where it wasn't, and there's no one could come in and say anything.
yeah.
That wasn't gonna fix anything. But my daughter had other ideas, so my daughter came looking for us. So I had some time on my own, and it was undoubtedly the connection between me and her that did it, that changed it, because I was sat on one side of the bed, and she was coming across the top, and she was on to my back, and the connection, the touch, the presence snapped, just
Mm,
flipped it. Didn't flip it, and I've said this before in some of my sort of little podcasts where I reveal this sort of information about me. It didn't make me go like into the skies. I didn't suddenly turn around and go, right now I'm a Buddhist monk, and I can handle all stress. It didn't do that, but it did a genuine and a raw change. It was almost like a slab of concrete going down on top of something that won't be opened again, and that was enough of that. And it was this touch from her, this presence, and this idea that actually I didn't know what it was going to be. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I was going to change everything that would put me on the floor, if nothing else, for the person that's on my back, for my daughter. And I'm
mm,
gonna change. Um, and uh, and it's been incredibly tough since. You keep coming up and down, and the process has been long, but it where I was then to any bad moment since is nowhere near the same.
nowhere near.
It's never a sinking. At the
Yeah.
very least, I'm skimming on the river again. So yeah.
Yeah. So would you say like that touch from your daughter was like the spark that you needed to close the door? Like the cement dropping to me is like a closed door, and that her
Yeah,
touch was that spark of possibility, that spark of forward.
yeah. It was like what's the film? There's a one of the, I think it's the Avengers films, where they've got or Doctor Strange, and they've got the ability to punch the body of Hulk out of Hulk, and it was that. It
Okay.
was that. It was like,
Like a
what am I
jolt.
doing? That's it. What
Yeah.
what am I doing? And uh, it just didn't feel right. It didn't feel like me. It was almost like somebody put the costume on you, and they'd just taken the costume off, and you went, "All right, I didn't realize this was under here. Oh, this is my condition. I've been here for all this time." And so yeah, it was just, and from that moment, I've never gone back there. Never got
Sure.
close to it. It's only been going ups and downs, but
Sure.
never back to where it was. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
since found out from different people, and from my own intuition and spiritual connection, that my daughter is probably a much older healer than I, older soul and everything. So she's got it. She just doesn't, suppose, hasn't entered into it knowingly yet. But the touch was,
Yeah.
yeah, from a healer. Yeah, it's from
Yeah.
someone that matters, really matters.
I love that. I love that. And I love that you'll be able to help her grow her spirituality and her connection and use her gifts
Yeah, yeah. It's
to
been
her. Yeah.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I feel like, so in shamanism, so I'm a shamanic healer practitioner, but I'm not a shaman. To be a shaman, you go through an apprenticeship process, and then a circle of shamans essentially say, yes, you're a shaman, and then you never say that you're a shaman again. It's kind of how it seems to go. It's a very sort of anticlimactic finish, but means
Yeah.
everything. And in a way, I feel like, even though I'm the sort of the spiritual one, and I'm older, and I'm her dad, that I feel like an apprentice to her in a way. That
Mm.
it's and it is her, and it's that moment, and it's been every decision since, that I feel like she's brought out of me what's been hidden for all this time. So yeah, it'd
Mm.
be an honor to help her find herself, but I mean, she'll surpass anything I've done. So yeah, it's
Oh,
exciting.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah,
So from that moment, you talked about it becoming this like messy journey. There was no like, And the healing journey is messy. It's not quick. It's not easy. It is
Yeah.
messy.
Yeah.
So just share a little bit about where did you start seeking? What did you start doing?
Yeah. So from that moment, the decision was, what do we do about it? You know, how do we fix this? The primary thing to fix was the stress, was that
Mm,
anxiety and those feelings, those dark feelings. And so meditation was the obvious thing to try. And I came across, and this was where COVID was fantastic for me, because you had the time. I had the time to
yes.
try doing
Yeah.
something, and I didn't have to explain it to anybody. That was the beautiful thing about it, is that I could be exactly who I wanted to be every day, because I didn't have to see colleagues, I
Mm,
didn't have to see friends. The closest you got was a Zoom conversation. But I mean, people wear pajama pants with suit jackets on Zoom. Who
yeah.
knows? So
Yeah.
it's I was like, well, I can be who I want to be, and so I'm going to do meditation. And I'm not going to pay any attention to what people think of it, and how strange people might think it is. And so I was using apps like Headspace, and Andy Puddicombe was a fantastic person to follow in that, because his journey through difficulties through Buddhism as a monk was all really nice to hear. And so I thought, well, I'll go into meditation, and it was doing the meditations that I started. I'm a big thinker and sometimes overthinker, and you can probably tell from the books. I read a lot, so I never do things by half. So when I went into meditation, it was a case of, well, what more can I do with this? And
Mm,
so I found myself going back to my faith, and I'd lost touch with faith from late teens. I was raised Catholic. And at one point I thought I was going to be a priest. I thought this is, and I clearly had some connection to faith, and so it started to awaken again in me, this idea that perhaps that's the missing piece. So even though meditation was going to de-stress me, it was going to find me those moments of peace. What's the thing that's not that's what's the missing thing? What's the purpose, perhaps? What's the ikigai? What is it that I'm missing? And
mm,
so I thought, well, faith. And so I went in to look at Buddhism, because meditation connects to Buddhism, sort of fairly sort of hand in hand. And there is, for the Western world, the denomination, or the strand of Buddhism, is New Kadampa tradition. And there happened to be a New Kadampa, the HQ for New Kadampa, the mother temple or whatever, is about an hour from here. And so it seemed like a lot of coincidence, which we don't believe in coincidence. And so I was like, right, so this is
not
this is where
anymore.
I'm going. So I started to look into Buddhism, and I really tried with it. I used to say, yeah, I'm Buddhist, and I'd say it quietly. You know, when you sort of say something you don't really believe, and you're not sure if it's that you're uncomfortable with it, or if you're just kind of getting by. And I really tried. And then there was I think a book I came across that talked about the difference between walking alongside Buddhism and then walking the actual path. And I
Mm,
didn't tick any of the boxes, and I knew instantly. I thought, this isn't it. And and so I went in search for something more, and I realized that I'd been listening to the wrong things. So I've always had an affinity with nature, with the natural world, animals, very very raw, authentic, and very simple and basic ways of life. And they just felt like my passion at first, and I realized I'd been listening to them like they were hobbies, as opposed to purpose and
mm,
faith.
mm.
And so then I started to explore it and found shamanism, which I hadn't come across before. And I realized that me being me, all seemed to fit into place. I'm always looking for the root cause. I'm always looking for the original source. I don't like getting things through hearsay. I prefer just to know exactly what it is that I'm getting. My pursuit of my purpose and my faith was no different. It was a case of, what is it that I'm actually trying to get to? And I found my way back to shamanism, found out it fit with who I was. It awakened in me something that I knew I had, but didn't know that that's what it was. And then also the fact that it's it just goes back to, as far as I can tell, the beginning.
Yeah.
I don't know. So
Yeah.
so yeah, that was sort of the. I don't know if that answers the question, but that was the process that brought me to what I'm doing
Sure.
now, I suppose. But yeah, and within there, and the beautiful thing about entering shamanism was that I got to find out what was going on. Those dark nights, especially that one, I found out in shamanism that that's what we consider to be the disembodiment. And
Mm.
it was a shamanic practitioner who's now a really dear friend of mine, and she was explaining this to me and what I'd gone through and how it fits, and I was like, that's exactly what it is. You know, it feels like I'm in pieces, but they're all working pieces, and they just need a little bit of tooling up, and perhaps I won't put that part back in and it'll just get shined off a little bit,
Mm.
and then at some point I will come back together. But just being able to see, as opposed to before I felt broken, now I felt like I was being repaired. And
Yeah.
it didn't matter if it took the rest of my life to be repaired. You could now see the working pieces, which is enough. That was enough,
Well,
you
that
know.
really is
So
a key point that I do want to highlight because a lot of times we hear in the secular world and even in the spiritual world, woo-woo world, I call it sometimes, just
yeah,
simply because of
yeah,
where I live in the Midwest. Um, we hear the word broken. I'm broken,
yeah,
right? And you and I both know these I am statements are pretty powerful, right? So
yeah,
we
yeah.
wouldn't want to use them. So you just
Nope.
gave a beautiful way of reframing that thought that
Yeah,
someone might have of I'm broken to, you know what, I'm just in pieces right now, and
yeah.
pieces can be put me back together. I mean, I
That's it.
remember in my religious days, I remember one pastor bringing this beautiful vase that had been shattered, and he
Oh,
had glued it all back together. So you saw all the cracks and there were little pieces missing, and it was still beautiful in
yeah,
its brokenness and pieced back together, right? It is
yeah,
extremely, obviously, since I remember it, it was a pretty
yeah.
powerful visual, but exactly what you just said, right? They're
Yeah.
pieces that can be put back
That's
together. They just simply might need to be molded or buffed
that's it.
or
Yeah. Yeah, it just needs it's no different
yeah,
to taking apart a car and tooling it up as it were, and there are some
yeah,
things that need an upgrade and there are some things that need a new fresh coat of paint. But everything works. Everything works. Like your whole self, I suppose, in a way, could be broken, but I mean, there's not a person out there that could say that
yeah,
they've not. The whole self isn't broken because you break one piece needs to go.
right,
Everybody's there. You know, everybody's
right,
there. So,
right.
so you kind of, I mean, yeah, I'm consciously don't see myself as broken. At the very most, a part of me might be broken, but never going through thinking it's oh I'm broken. And I'm
Right.
also very conscious of that with the work I do because it's something very specific that I said to people that. I don't know whether this is just in the spiritual community, whether it's always happened. I mean, obviously, I've not worked in it for as long as some people, but sometimes people think that this world and these feelings are reserved for the broken people, and
Mm,
we need to and you need to meet a threshold, like a criteria, like a terrible criteria that nobody wants to actually meet, but we save it for that, and well, that's not 99% of the world, and if people need help. And it can be over anything. It can be financial worries, or it can be I don't know, some OCD about your lawn. I don't know. And if it is and it causes you pain and it's something that needs to be fixed and there's a deeper root to it, then we need to find it. It doesn't matter how we see the chink, as it were. Everybody's entitled to find that fix. And so broken just then becomes a bit pointless to think about
yeah,
because
yeah,
we're talking about like literally everything. And so in that case, and also it's very progressive. I mean, you know, with the work that we do, healing is a good part of things, but progression, you know, it's about we really need to go forward, don't we? You know.
yeah, yeah. So you just like sparked so many things. So I think I'm going to go here first. So what you're talking about, right? Like no matter what the issue is, getting help for it, like to me, that's what we as humans on Earth are supposed to be doing. We're here to evolve our soul, right? And so if that chink, that the financial worries is, being is the biggest block that you have, Well,
Yeah,
that is an opportunity for you to lean into, to find out what are the lessons and what is the healing that is needed, and
yeah,
how do you lean into that to evolve your soul, to evolve
yeah.
this human experience so that you can grow to where you're supposed to grow. Because that's what I believe that we on Earth are supposed to be doing.
So it's trying to live our most authentic and
Yeah.
soul essence. That's really what it's about. And there's a lot of stuff in the modern world that tries to take us away from that. There's a lot of things that try and shift us from that. And these experiences, when it comes to something like finances, that it so it's like that. I think there's something about saying that every single story, like film narrative, everything boils down to, I think it's something like seven different types of story. And I've read a book on this, and it's about every single type of film. They can keep categorizing until it's just these seven types. And it's the same with this. So it might be that it manifests in the finance, but it's going to be a root of something else. And the
Yes.
reason it came up here and didn't come up here is because you weren't ready for this, perhaps, and
Yes.
that you were a bit more prepared for. And so it doesn't, like, if we don't deal with that, it'll come up somewhere else,
Yeah.
and we need to deal with it anyway. I mean, in shamanism, we believe that it's these sort of soul level things that need to be dealt with, because they're the things that manifest the illnesses, the fears, the
Yes.
confusion. All of
Yeah.
it comes from that. So we need to, and there's an overwhelming amount of evidence now about DNA, memory, and what can be passed down from your parents, and what can happen when your mum's got you in the womb, all sorts of stuff. And
Yeah.
so it doesn't matter how it comes up.
Yeah.
It needs to be dealt with.
Yeah.
It needs to be dealt with. And we want to leave here, you know, like all just, coexisting in this space, and being authentic.
Yeah.
That's the key thing. That's what all of my stuff is about. I don't really know how sometimes we get there, but it's just about authenticity. Because when we're authentic, we glide. When we're authentic, we don't hit obstacles. We just don't hit them.
Yeah.
When we're in the
Yeah.
flow, nothing can get in our way. And if everybody lived like that, we'd be whatever, heaven on
Be a
earth.
different world, wouldn't it?
That's what it would be, you know?
So I
So,
have a question. You've talked a lot about what I'm hearing is a lot of mind soul, right? Like really working on the mind, working on the soul, listening to the soul. Talk to
yeah,
me about what you experienced in your body. Like, so what were the messages that your body was saying? But then also on the other hand, talk to me about your intuitiveness. Where was that before? Where is it now?
yeah.
The
Okay.
emotional intelligence, the part of the
Yeah.
body. Talk to me about those two different aspects of the
Okay.
body.
So I'd say that before, I'd say that where it was is, and try and place this for people, is that I now am more like I was when I was a child.
Mm.
I'm less aware of the things that sort of society doesn't want you to do, perhaps, or that you should feel embarrassed about, or yeah, the conditioning, I suppose, in a way. And
Yep.
so, in terms of, like, I suppose, like bodily sensation sense, so I realized that I was living my happiest in terms of authenticity. Again, I use that word, when I was at school. I was in the choir. I was the only boy in the choir, so that was fun. I was the lead on stage, singing in front of my entire school. I was also the head boy, which means that I was the geekiest one of the ones that wanted to be the geeky ones. And then I was also in the football team. I was goalkeeper in the football team, and so I was across everything. And I didn't appreciate at the time um, how powerful that was, because I never got bullied. Nobody ever bullied me. I weighed at the time. Well, I can't remember what I weighed in school, but since I made my change that day on the floor, I'm now 5 stone lighter than I was. So I was a heavy lad. And so the fact that I was sort of prime bullying, like, criteria, surely he's singing. I played the flute. I played the flute in the band with the teachers, and I was like, this guy's ready for, like, he's gonna get teased. Is this guy? Nothing at all. No problems at all. And then I went away from school, and things started to get this is embarrassing. Watch out for doing that.
Mm.
Don't be like this. Don't be like that. Are you sure you want to go and sing over there? Because they might laugh at you. And people weren't doing that, but my mind started to say you're doing this, and you started to feel a lot of anxiety about it. And so I got quite bad anxiety problems. Things started to get on top of me. And so that day, I would say that I was pretty afraid of going out and trying new things. That I
Mm.
was, yeah, I didn't want to push the boat out. I was quite risk averse. Yeah, just very stay in my lane kind of guy. Please keep me in my comfort zone. And that's been incredibly difficult to forget, to unwind.
Yeah.
I get things. I've got a trade show tomorrow, and my mind will flip between wanting to do it and not wanting to do it because people are going to see me, and if they see me, they might. Now, what I realized is that the feelings and the way I've got to be is back to what I was like when I was a kid, where you didn't have that, and you just acted, and you just felt fun, and it was allowing the body to free. I mean, I don't dance, but I imagine this is what people feel like when they dance. Just allow the body to go and do
Yeah.
its thing, and you follow it. Don't be concerned. Just follow it. It'll know what's best for you if you give it the space, if you give it the chance. From a, I mean, like a literal physical point of view, I changed my diets, and I started to follow a plant-based diet. I've come away from that now, but for a time it felt right. It felt right for my ethics. It felt right with it, for everything I was doing at the time, and so I was sort of cleansing my body and giving it a chance to undo everything I've put on. I've put on all this stuff, all this weight, all
Mm.
this emotional weight, everything for the last 5 to 10 years, and I've just forgotten myself. And so yeah, so in terms of, I'd say it's what it was on intuition, wasn't it? Um, uh, there wasn't any. There wasn't any intuition. There was no. There was no. So now, like we said about the coincidence, I would have definitely just said coincidence. But now I tell people coincidence, and I said, but obviously we don't believe in coincidence. And intuition now, and trusting my gut now has such. It's not just my gut. It's like the backing of my entire ancestral lineage, and the wisdom across the worlds. And so it's not an intuition that comes from. What's funny is that my intuition has awoken. It's not that I'm now trusting myself and what I've read. It's trusting stuff that has always been there. There's nothing new.
Like a
I've just
remembering,
switched on.
like
That's
a
right. Yeah.
remembering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was from beyond. That was from before my childhood. I mean, I might have.
Yeah.
It might have been like that, but I don't ever remember feeling like that. The childhood to now is getting back that sense of freedom, that sense of joy, that
Hmm.
sense of yeah, those, and ridding me of the anxiety. Ridding me of the will to just, you just want to go out and sell the house and go and live in the woods, and now it feels like I probably could do that. Like
Yeah.
me and my wife talk about that every other day, just to sell up and get on with it. Now you go back 5 years, and that wouldn't have been. In fact, you go back 5 years, and so this is part of the dark moment for me, which is so sort of profound. I'd ticked the boxes and moved up in the world in terms of what you meant to do. So I was living in the biggest house that I could buy. It was the biggest house in town, or like the biggest street. I was driving a Jaguar. My second, the first one was a smaller one. Then I got the big one, and so I was winning at
Like
everything that you.
successful is what,
Yeah,
yeah, what
yeah,
we've been
that's it.
conditioned to believe is
That's it.
all
I was
that, the
the
goal.
the the yeah, the holidays, the spends, the way to live. I was just, I was doing it. I was doing it all. The big telly and stuff, and it just in that short space of time, just a few months, everything changed on that, and I didn't want anything to do with that. And so, if you were to say, let's sell up the house and go and live in the woods, then it would be flippant, and it would be a laugh. And whereas now, if I wake up tomorrow still feeling this way, chances are I'll try and do it. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's the sort of intuition, and the sort of bodily sensations. I feel so much freer, and you can sense that even from a chemical perspective, you can sense the feel good chemicals shifting in ways that they never shifted before. For simpler things, that's probably the better way of putting it. The simpler things, so not getting the dopamine hits from social media, getting the dopamine hits from a green leaf. It's a different world. It's a different world now than when it was.
Yeah. And so too, I think what I've also heard, different world, but you've also like changed your whole career path. You changed your
Yeah.
whole where you
Yes.
were going.
Yeah, that's right. So I originally, when I left, so at university, I studied English as my undergraduate. Very creative. There was a time where I was hoping to have gone into there's a drama school in London called RADA. It's where some really famous actors went to. My family couldn't afford it, so it wasn't going to be something we did. And so I went to university and I did English because it was creative. And then I did a business masters because guidance from my parents. If I wasn't going to be a
Mm.
teacher, then I needed to get business. I needed to come up with some plan. And so I did a business master's, and then I went off to work at a graduate firm doing tech consultancy. I was very good at it. It was the crux of the job is picking up the phone and talking to people. And I just didn't have any problem doing that. I'm all right with that. I can call anybody and talk to them. I'm all right with that. And so I did well and I progressed. And then I came up to work with my dad. I moved back up, and I knew that I'd always end up in the family business because he has a business, and so at some point he's going to want someone to take it from him, keep the family line going, and so I felt that responsibility. That sort of
Mm.
felt like me. Me and my dad were so similar in a sense that I once picked up a photo of him, and I asked my mum when we took this because I don't remember taking this, and she said that's your dad, and I was like, that's kind of weird that
Mm.
I thought that was
That
me.
it was you.
Um, yeah, it was a strange one. And so I knew that if it was going to be anybody, it'd probably be me. I've got the business masters or whatever. And I worked there for 11 years. And so it was everything. And we were talking about where the business would go in the future. But from about whatever it was 2020 up until so I left last year properly,
Mm.
but I'd floated the idea of leaving say a year or so before that. I'd started my other firm on the side, and so it was that this moment, this time in COVID, this time to soul search, told me that it wasn't where my heart was. And then you
Mm.
had a chance to look forward. And obviously, I worked with some wonderful people, and a lot of the workers that I was with. I spent every day with them, spent more time with them than I did with my wife. And so we knew each other really well. It was funny. One day it was I'm going to be here forever. The next day it was oh my god, I'm going to be here forever. And at the time I was 30. Well, I'm 37 now, so 35. So that's like
So same thought, but totally different feeling.
yeah, yeah. 30 to 40 years of this, because then you also realize that most of these guys are going to go as well. So the
Yeah.
people I'm with right now aren't going to be the people I'm with tomorrow. It's a perspective thing. You kind of go, well,
Yeah.
yeah, that's not really. And so I found the bravery to say I want to change. It didn't come through the bravery didn't come through like a really well planned change. It actually came through like um, a big cataclysmic smashing together. I walked out one day. So I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes last year. And that really started to fizz everything because
Mm.
when you get you sort of, it's very difficult to understand being told you've got type 1 diabetes and that you're going to be injecting yourself 4 times a day now for the rest of your life. Um, and if you don't, you die. That's what they just tell you. Watch this, watch that. Don't do this, don't do that. And so I was like, right, well, this isn't fun. This isn't fun. I need to do something fun. I need to do something that I want to follow my path. I want to follow my path, and also I want to see if I could heal myself. I'm sure everybody that gets any illness wants to heal themselves from it. So I thought, you know what, we're going into this. I'm going to start feeling better. There's an underlying stress that's coming from this job that's not doing me any good. I need to change. And so I gave all of my self to spirit. And I thought, let's do this then. This it's
Mm.
the so you're what's brought me here. You wouldn't have brought me here if it wasn't a plan. You wouldn't have brought me here if it wasn't going to work. So let's go and do it. And so it wasn't just leaving a career that actually that was printing. Sorry, I probably should have said that. That was education printing. So it's not remotely like what I do. It shocked a lot of people. And also, though, it was a family business, my dad's business. And so there was a lot of inner turmoil with that decision.
Yeah.
But I suppose it shows how sure I am. The sort of need to get there. I couldn't keep pretending. I couldn't
Yeah.
pretend. If someone were to, if it, I'm the kind of person where if they were to come in and ask me just point blank the question, I couldn't lie. I don't lie. I can't. People, yeah. I really struggle with it. So let's just talk the truth. So yeah, it was good to be the true me, and nourish my soul.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what's in my mind right now. So you just left last year. So it was 4 years into your journey. And,
Yeah,
from the pivotal moment in the messy, but it was all those steps and all that you did got to that point where you were brave enough to follow that
yeah, yeah,
decision, follow that nudge, right?
yeah. That's it. So it actually it's funny because you go back 4 years and someone said, could you like write a diary about yourself or a set of events? And I probably couldn't. I could write down the things that people probably could, university, marriage, kids, or whatever. But in the last 4 years, I have a story and a half.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
the additions, the awakenings, the pivots, the U-turns, and they're getting comfortable with the U-turns.
Yeah.
Most people think that if you can't, that you're not allowed to change your mind and stuff like that. But when you start to do this and you start to build up these things, you realize actually my life. I think I once referred to it. My life is like a textbook, not and so each bit's a chapter or a module within the textbook, and they could exist individually, but really the whole thing is the textbook. And it's not even just a straightforward journey. It's not a fictional book. It's
No.
not start to finish. It's
Yeah.
absolutely, we need this bit over here and we need this bit over here. And also the book's nowhere near finished. And I'll
Yeah.
probably rewrite half
Well,
of it. Some of it's in pencil, that's for sure.
well, it's just kind of like those pivotal moments, the awareness, the lesson, the all the stuff that comes from it, depending on the depth of that, those those to me are the gold pieces of our life. It's not the job, the wedding, the degree, the promotion.
Yeah,
That's all surface level stuff, right? But
yeah, yeah,
the stuff that matters,
yeah,
like the stuff that's of our soul,
yeah. It's
that's
have you seen the film Inside Out?
yeah.
So yeah, so it's whenever it's one of the best films to explain most of this, and it's those core memories. It's those
Yeah.
it's those core, and I know that somewhere in me's a little spinning wheel of like a handful that make me, and there's space for those to come in, but yeah, there's definitely bits that it's like when something happens and you align, you go, actually, I think this is how it should be, yeah, it's like a layer comes off. And you
Mm-hmm.
feel lighter, and you feel like you step into the flow, and it's not that. And I think I've described this to someone. Let's say it was bands of string energies, that are going from your soul out into the universe, and some are still over here. And so every so often you might find one, and then you pull it in, and it stays, and it gets brighter, and it gets stronger, and there's still some over
Mm-hmm.
there. And sometimes you might bring it in, and it'll twang back out. It won't stay. It doesn't add anything, but sometimes it comes in, and it just immediately more power and more feeling. So it is those moments, that are just a different, like you say, it's the soul part, because
Yeah.
all those other things that you've mentioned, they'll go one day. that's the sad truth of it. That's the difficult part to understand. Something that Buddhism taught me was sort of coming to terms with death.
Hmm.
I don't think in the time I lost anybody, but understanding it differently. Sometimes when I was doing it, I was like, I feel like this might be quite cold, like that I kind of understand things just do go, but it's not that. You kind of come to terms with it. But this stuff's going to go with me from here to the next, to the next, to the next. It's going to be what bits of me pass down to kids, and it's this that influences other people. So yeah, it's yeah, the core stuff. Yeah,
Yeah. So talk to me about integration. So, you've talked about your mind, you talked about your body, you talked about your soul, and all the changes and the experiences of the three. But part of this journey and like this mind, body, soul mastery is like doing this deeper work, looking at these things, leaning into the messy, the challenging, the uncomfortable to find the lesson in it, to find what's for me, and then integrating that new awareness into your everyday, right? Around this
yeah,
soul evolution. So talk to me about integration and
yeah.
how you did that and how you do that.
But my probably my main way of doing it is realizing how not to do it. So I've done
Okay.
it wrong a lot. And that's how I know that I'm doing it right now, and how I should do it. Wrong a lot is usually where it's juggling many things.
Mm,
It's where I'm spreading out too thin and I'm trying too hard. The runes, so I'm a rune reader. It's part of my past. It's definitely something I got a connection to. And there's rune in there called Naughties, and Naughties is the second one of the Haggles eight, which is the middle set, and Naughties is need. And the mess, and whenever I think about these sorts of things, and it's been a good teacher, is that when you see this rune, it's there's some needs that are really important, and you must have them, life or death. But that doesn't mean you should go and get it. That might you
mm,
so that the imagery is a bow drill for making fire, which is really important. You must have fire. But if you move too fast, you might snap the stick. If you move too fast, you might burn your hands, and you're playing with fire. So just go cautiously with it. And so I found that I've tried to integrate, I've tried to force things, I've tried to push as much as I can into my life,
mm,
and I've fallen out of love with things that I started off loving, fallen out of love with it. Why? Because I've resented it. It's taken my time up, or it's yeah, or I failed at it and I never wanted to fail at it. So then I throw it to one side. And so integrating these things was to go slow,
mm.
and was to see it, and was to sit with it, especially sitting with it. Meditation, great for that. But it's about sitting and being able to hear it within yourself. Whether it's saying it back to yourself, whether it's feeling the feelings of it, the goosebumps, the whether it brings a smile to your face, but then being able to also leave it alone and it
Yeah.
not
Or
move.
even in the uncomfortableness of it, right?
Yeah,
Sometimes we have to sit in the
yeah,
uncomfortableness of it and
yeah,
not try to force or change or
yeah.
distract, right? Like,
That's right, because it's going to be a teacher, because the discomfort might just be your brain saying, well, this isn't what I'm used to. The
yeah,
brain's trying to keep us alive, and so it looks for those chemicals, doesn't it? It tries to say, well, actually, I'm pretty used to stress, so can I have stress today? And you're like, well, no, I want to be a different person. Oh, well,
yeah,
I need stress, and so the brain will work against you. And so you've got to sit with it. You've just got to be patient with it, and just leave it, and you'll know. But it was from trying too much to integrate, trying to force the integration. Um, time's a healer.
yeah,
It's an excellent saying for a reason, and just sitting with it and being patient, and seeing for what it is. And it's something again from shamanism, is that you can knock on the door of shamanism, of the other worlds, for a long time. They'll choose to let you in, and
mm,
so it's kind of like when you stop trying, then you'll get it. Then you'll get
yeah,
it. So it's like you say, it's just sort of going, well, these are the things. So for me specifically, I was doing things that required me to go to parties, and every part of you wants to. I don't know if this is the same for other people, but I have a new identity. I'm going to go dressed as my new identity so that everybody knows it, so that I can shout it from the rooftops. There's a lot of jokes about when people are vegan, they say, "How do you know that someone's vegan?" They'll tell you, and so it was like that. It was just I must tell everybody who I am, like as if I was
Mm,
proving to them who I was. And any moment that I felt like that's what I'm going to do is probably not right. If
mm,
I'm trying to
mm.
get somebody else to validate
Yeah.
my new identity, it might not be the identity for me. That might not be the
Yeah.
one.
Yet I also want to say it's a very human desire, right? To see
Yeah,
me, see I've changed.
yeah,
Look, like I'm not the same.
yeah,
Like I'd love to bring you into this world and
yeah,
show you how great this is. Like I think that's,
yeah,
I don't know, that's how I feel. That just very human. So,
yeah. It
but not
it is.
everyone
It's
wants to see or hear that.
Well, that's it. It's incredibly nuanced, isn't it? That
Yeah.
you are it's sort of the same side. But you're right. There are times where you go, well, actually. So if someone asks me about what I do, I get giddy and I go mental and I start telling them everything. But I kind of hold it back a touch, because yeah, it's just how it's like I say, it's not because it's because I tried it the other way where I was forcing it, and I can feel. Like I said before, I don't like to lie. I can feel when something. If so, I struggle to say, yeah, I'm enjoying this. I'm not very good at small talk, and yeah, if it's not got meaning in it, if it doesn't mean something, and if there's not truth to it, I can't really go with it.
I'm
But
so
that's what
with you
I
there.
yeah, but it's what I know now. 5 years ago when I started doing this, I was like, yeah, I'm Buddhist, I'm Buddhist. I was like, it's not, you're doing it wrong, Joe. That's what I'd like to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're doing it wrong. Does that feel good? Because if it doesn't feel good, you need to pack it in. So yeah, it was yes, that I think if that helps,
Yeah,
if
no.
that's the
Well, and I
answer to the
love,
question.
yeah, it does. And I love the last little nugget. If it doesn't feel good, it's probably not right, right? Like
No,
that's following the
that's it.
body. And
That's
that's
it.
following your path and
Yeah,
doing what's right for you. Like
yeah,
that's just gold.
yeah. That's it. That's the only way, and that's the integration. That's how it works. That's why I am. And it's funny because I say I would have gone to a party and tried to tell people who I was. Now what happens is I go to people and they tell me who I am without me opening my mouth. If that makes
Mm,
sense. So they'll tell me
mm,
that my energy shifted or that I've enjoyed something. You'd be like, this is you, isn't it? You're even my wife, the only a few weeks ago. So I do a lot of what I do away from the family because it's my work. And so
yep.
I go to trade festivals, things like that. And we went away as a couple to something that was like my world, as it were. And she just said, it's lovely to see, like, you're totally different here amongst these people than you are with like your friends and your family and stuff. And I said, I can't really explain to you why it's just how it is, but if I tried to explain it to you, you probably wouldn't get it. You have to see it and you have to
Yeah.
feel it. And that's the thing, they can feel it. When it integrates, other people can see it, other people can feel it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's lovely. One last question.
Yeah,
So if you think back to that time on the floor,
yeah,
do you look back to that now and say that was my beginning?
yeah. In a not a sadistic way, it makes me smile when you articulated it at the beginning. I didn't feel ashamed.
Mm,
um I felt proud. I felt proud. So yeah, it was for sure the beginning.
yeah,
And something I'll always be eternally grateful for. Like, yeah, it's
yeah,
a
yeah,
horrible feeling then, but a wonderful a
yeah,
wonderful thing to look back at.
yeah. Well, but I hear the shift in it. It was a beginning, but it was also that it was for you, it was that beginning of this soul remembering,
Yeah,
right? Who
yeah.
you are,
I
figuring
I I
out. who
That's it.
you are. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think I worded one of my blogs. It was this was my homecoming. That was
Hmm.
my I came home. That was what happened there. I came out of the cold, and I came. Yeah, so it was for me really. It was one, it was a remembering, but it was a homecoming. So I've called my one of my
Mm,
blogs or one of my podcasts was this idea of returning home and coming home to yourself. And for me, that moment, I was out in the cold, I was out in the dark, and that moment, the door opened, and I was able to come in
yeah.
and to the warmth and go back home
Mm,
and build
mm,
my life. So yeah,
mm. Such a fascinating journey, Joe. Like,
yeah,
and this has been such a deep and soulful conversation. Like, I don't know if I can thank you enough for being honest. And I just have to say, this is your first podcast interview, right?
it is. Yeah,
And
yeah.
it
I
was
don't
so
normally do
easy.
this. All right.
It was
I
so
do
easy.
ramble. A friend of mine once announced to a room that you put 50p in me and I won't shut up. So yeah, I'm, I'm probably good for this. You ask the right questions. If you ask me the right questions, you must have asked the right questions.
Well, spirit was here for sure. So,
Yeah.
one of my intentions for this podcast is to not just offer hope and inspiration, but also this kind of quiet invitation to all who are listening that you can remember your truth. You can trust your path and you can awaken the power that's already within you. And if you are already spiritually awake, friend, there's ways to go deeper because this is our journey. This is our purpose. This is our soul's path in this lifetime. And Joe, I believe that's exactly what we have done today. We've awakened and empowered, but also we've deepened understanding and yeah, it's just been so great. So thank you for showing up with such openness and authenticity and presence. This,
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. You know, don't often talk about myself much. And so yeah, quite enjoyed it.
well, you're definitely a natural at it, I just have to say. So for those of us, those friends who are listening, like if there's something that stuck with you today or touched a part of you in Joe's story or our conversation, give yourself a few minutes after done listening to allow it to settle and simply just kind of tune in and what in this was meant for me today? What did I need to hear? What is stirring within me based on what I heard? Maybe just sit in the stillness of it or write it out or share it with a friend, but find a way to allow the ripple of what's been stirred to grow. You will find the ways to connect with Joe in the show notes or myself. And until next time, keep leaning into your truth and honoring your journey. This is Brenda Stott Tomlinson, and you've been listening to Mind, Body, Soul Mastery.